My name is Stephen Alston. I'm the Circulation Manager for Foran Media, and before I introduce the next virtue, I'd like to take a moment to talk about subscribing to our magazine. To guarantee your subscription to Dentaltown, there are actually a couple of steps you can do. First off, if you already received the magazine, you can simply open it up and you'll find 2 cards inside. Sign the card, tear it out, and send it in. You'll also find one in the back. If interested in receiving advertiser information, circle the number, sign the card, send it in. If you don't receive the magazine, you can go to our website, www.dentaltown.com, and sign up online. Or you can go ahead and send me an email, Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N, @foranmedia.com, and I will definitely be able to sign you up that way as well. Or if you receive more than one issue, please send me an email as well and we can cancel the extras. The next virtue is komotos, which is defined as humor, ease of manner, courtesy, openness, and friendliness. Does your staff feel at ease with you? Are you approachable? Can they come to you with their creative ideas or problems? Do they share their visions and goals? In our office, there are no walls. There is no hierarchy for the problems, or if there are any issues we feel that we can go in between anybody. We can go to Howard or Lori or anybody. And with that, I'd like to introduce Howard.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks a lot.
Stephen has done wonders with our circulation department. I remember when Stephen started, we were rated as third-class junk mail by the U.S. Post Office, and by getting, if you get over 51% of those card signs, it drops you to second-rate postage. Not only lowered our postage $20,000 a month, but if we're sending it to an address that's no longer existent, it comes back to you. And once again, it's just picking great people. And when he came on our circulation department, there were things that he didn't like, there were things he wanted to change, and he just felt completely open to say, hey, Howard, I don't think you should do it this way. I think you should do it like this. Here's how we used to do it, the other magazine I worked at, yada, yada, yada. And I just said, Stephen, I don't want to get in your way. If this is, if you got strong feelings about that, do it. In our office, humor goes without saying. I mean, some call me Doc, some call me Nuthead, Crazy One, whatever. But if you're not approachable and there's not humor, there's no fun, and you're not going to get the best information. And then once again, you're going to have to rely on $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a year consultants to tell you what your staff could tell you for free. And I'll go on and on to say that organizations impede creative thought. Read the book Making Hard Decisions by Robert Clement. He talks about an organization may have a culture that in subtle ways promotes criticism and judging of ideas, stereotyping, and being risk adverse. But humor, playfulness, or artistic thinking may be frowned upon, or change may be resisted in order to preserve company traditions. Open up. You have a whole box of great ideas from all your employees, and let them flow freely. Listen to constructive criticism. Stay open, stay teachable. Remember Adam Smith, clear back in the Wealth of Nations, said, what is bought with money is purchased with labor. If someone tells you the average Chinese person earns $1 a day, when you buy something for $400, well, that is also equal to someone in China working for a year. $100 bill, somebody in China worked 6 10-hour days for a quarter, January, February, March, for a $100 bill. So what is bought with money is purchased with labor. If labor denotes ultimate value, control and measurement of labor is vital. It's the principal route to increasing profitability. Intelligent people like myself always try to hire people who are more intelligent than me. One of the best marketing brains in the world was David Ogilvy. And David, I don't pronounce it right, David Ogilvy? Stephen, how do you pronounce that? Ogilvy? Ogilvy? But anyway, he was a marketing media mogul. Read his book. It's unbelievable. He says, if each of us hires people who are smaller than we are, we shall become a company of dwarfs and midgets. But if each of us hires people who are bigger than we are, we shall become a company of giants. I always want to hire people that smarter than me. My goal is to be the dumbest person on our team, and Stephen tells me I've accomplished that goal. And he said I accomplished it years ago. A horse who can count to 10 is a remarkable horse, but it's not really a remarkable mathematician. So lots of times we see with dental companies where they're used to working with dental assistants and hygienists, and then they try to build a $100 million company with dental assistants and hygienists. And sometimes you need finance people. Sometimes you need all kinds of other talent, but always look for people smarter than you. And I tell you, it's not that hard to do, Doc. If you want people to live and breathe the vision, show them the money. When they do, be it with salary, bonus, significant recognition of some sort, vision is an essential element of the leader's job, but vision is worth the paper it's printed on unless it is communicated constantly and reinforced with rewards. Only then will your goals leap off the page and come to life and win. So when we look at the fastest growing occupations for 2004 to 2005, this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics right off their website. Number one fastest growing occupation, medical assistants. Then we got networks, computer networks. Then we have physician assistants. Then we have human service assistants, home health. We have medical records, health information technologies, physical therapist. So of the first 7, all are in healthcare but one. And then number 8 is computer software, 9 is software engineers, then back to healthcare, 10 physical therapists, 11 fitness trainers and aerobics instructors, 12 back to computers, database administrators, then 13 are back to healthcare with animals, veterinary, technologist, then 14 is hazardous materials. But look at number 15, dental hygienist. We're still in healthcare at 16, occupational therapists, and 17 is dental assistants. 18 is still healthcare with personal and home care aides, 19 self-enrichment education, and then 20 is computers. Healthcare went from being 1% of the GDP in 1900 to 15% of the GDP in the year 2000, and it's only going to keep growing and growing and growing. Think about it like this. Pretty much when you're born today, average person gets about 30,000 years of life. So after you've lived 10, 20,000 days of life, those remaining 10,000 get more valuable. Well, let's say you're down to 1,000 days of life. Now it's real valuable. You've accumulated all this money and assets and you only got 1,000 days left. Everyone's going to bet all their money, all their house, all their gold, their coin, their cash, everything they've got, trying to extend that last day. And when you've lived 29,999 days and you got 1 day left, they're going to throw everything at the Hail Mary and the intensive care for the new trial medication that hasn't got through the FDA. We see today, I've known several rich people who've gone down to Mexico to get treatments that are not legal in the United States or not approved. So healthcare is going to continue to grow at a very fast rate. America's best paying jobs, physicians and surgeons, total employment, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics for 2002, was 600,000 with 140,000 median annual earnings. Dentists, they said, was 152,000. That includes all the specialists with a median earnings of 130. CEOs were 500,000, and the average CEO in America, 113,000. Isn't that amazing? The average CEO, 113,000. Average dentist, 130,000. Think about this. Airline pilots are 98,000 of them are average 110,000. Podiatrists, there's 18,000. They average 107,000. So America's worst paying jobs. Casino dealers. Everybody always talks about gambling and what is it called? The lottery. I still pride myself. I've never bought a single lottery ticket. I find it just horrible that they go to Indian reservations, that there's not enough alcoholism and dysfunction to now they need casinos. I mean, this is insane. And they're horrible jobs. They employ 88,000 people in casinos. And the average person earns $13,000 a year at a casino. Waiters, there's 2 million. They also average 13,000. Fast food servers, there's 2 million. They average 13,000. Cafeteria workers, 500,000. They're 13,000. Fast food cooks, there's 500,000, 13,000. So, casinos, horrible jobs, lots of dysfunction. I can't tell you how many patients I had where they will say, well, you're going to put that on your credit card, and the lady will start crying, and I'll say, what's wrong? And she'll say, my husband, I don't know what's wrong. He goes to those casinos, he's maxed out our cards. It's just serious, serious dysfunction. And yes, in my family reunion, we just had a divorce, and the divorce was over and caused from a casino 2 miles from my house or 3 miles from my house. And it's just crazy. You know, we always hear about unemployment, and we always hear about, you know, what do we do to create jobs? You know, the only indicator that leaks to employment, I mean, if you want to create jobs, then just let in more people. As your population goes up, I mean, in 1950, we had 60 million jobs, and with the growing population, we went to 140 million people that have jobs. And the only thing that caused us to go from 60 to 140 million jobs was immigration. And immigration is so positive. I mean, you only have people, technology, and capital. And I think it's so absurd how, you know, they'll try to stimulate the economy by lowering taxes or lowering the interest rates. You have 6 million people today that have applied for a visa in the United States. If you let, and we have 300 million people. So if you let in 6 million people, that's a 2% rise in employment in people. Every one of them needs a house, a job, a root canal, a Twinkie, a bottle of Coke, some bottled water, a candy bar. You would have a 2% gain in your GDP just from letting the 6 million people in. And when I drive from Phoenix to New Mexico, Albuquerque. I just said Albuquerque. Phoenix, Albuquerque, 9-hour drive, nothing in between. If I drive north and go from Phoenix to Salt Lake City, 12 hours with nothing in between. If I drive from Phoenix to Los Angeles, 8 hours with nothing in between. This is a huge, empty, barren country. And you remember, we have 3.6 million square miles. So does Australia, so does China. Australia has 20 million people. We have 300 million people. And China's 1,300,000,000 people. You want to grow this economy, just let people in. Job turnover rates, everybody always talks about, you know, the net change will say like, oh, unemployment, we only created 100,000 jobs last month or 200,000 jobs last month. They're always talking about the net change. But see, usually in creative destructionism, you know, they're destroying 27 million jobs, creating 29 million jobs. So when they say, like, in 1993 we created 2 million new jobs, well, that doesn't really show the picture. What they should be telling you is they destroyed 27 million jobs, created 29 million new jobs for an increase of 2 million jobs. And to understand this, you need to read my favorite economist from times past, the great Austrian Joseph Schumpeter. Joseph Schumpeter came out with the term creative destructionism. He said technology and innovation destroys jobs by making other people more productive. The easiest example is farmers. When one farmer said, I'm not going to use an ox, I'm going to use one of these Model T tractors from Henry Ford. Well, now this farmer could be twice as efficient, farm twice as much land as the guy with the cow and an ox, and he makes him go bankrupt. And you're all sad that this guy went bankrupt, but what does he do? He puts on his plow and he goes into town and he becomes a mason, a bricklayer, a manufacturer, works on the assembly line. And this person by himself on his farm was not raising his own productivity. So we lose his job, destructionism, and go recycle him to work for someone who's more creative, and we raise everybody's productivity. So remember the big numbers. And some of these recently, like they were upset in 2001 because we lost 2 million jobs. They destroyed 35 million jobs, but created 32 million jobs. And you say, oh, well, we lost 3 million. Yeah, but that's a heck of a lot of awesome, creative destructionism. And this is why the United States still maintains the fastest growing, largest economy in the world. Pilots, labor leads all airline expenses. In the airline industry, labor's 38%. The fuel's 11%. The actual airplane, which you're looking at this, you know, this brand new airplane you're getting into from Boeing, you're saying, wow, a $50 million aircraft, that's a lot of coin. Well, that's only 10%. They pay 4 times that amount in labor. If you can't get the maximum bang for your buck with labor, and I'm trying to point out to you that this is where you spend all your money. Like, you'll tell me, well, I don't have the money to invest in digital x-ray. Well, digital x-ray, that's your airplane. A digital x-ray will speed up your real cost, labor. After you pay labor, do you really care what your advertising bill is at 1%, or your insurance 1.5%, or communication 1.5%, or landing fees 2%, or commissions 2%, passenger food 2.3%, maintenance 2.5%, the airplane 10%? After you pay payroll and yourself, that's half the money, okay? So when half the money goes for people, get the right people, and invest in things that make them more efficient. Now, how much we pay labor has been pretty consistent. It floats between 64 and 74% from 1940 to the year 2000. And profit is also very consistent. It hovers between 12 and 14% of national income. So profit is basically, for the entire country, 12 to 14%. That's what we do at Today's Dental. I mean, we sit there and we pay 52% labor, 9% lab, 6% supplies, 4% equipment, on and on and on, and we net between 12 and 14%. And that's what the nation's share of national income is. How could a profitable, efficient factory enrich the world if it continually destroyed its workers? All forces, both positive and negative, have a consequence to your overall synergy. Again, Abraham Maslow. People are not selfish. They simply follow their own self-interest. You know, religious people tell you, selfish is a religious term. Religious people say, oh, you're selfish. And you're selfish because you're not following their self-interest. When you follow your own self-interest, that's the best functional thing for you to do. You shouldn't go to the voting polls and think, what does Bill Gates and George Bush want me to do for them? You should go to the polls and say, what is best for me? And when you follow your own self-interest, you're smart. When you follow someone else's self-interest, you're just afraid of the shame they'll give you by calling you selfish. And John D. Rockefeller says, there's an incredible book called Titan, The Life of John D. Rockefeller, another just titan of industry. He says, never question another person's motive for their own self-interest. Don't judge people. Don't assume that they're evil or bad or wrong. Assume that they're doing what's best in their own self-interest, and you need to understand that, because if you're going to negotiate well with someone, the only way you're going to negotiate with someone is to first know what would be best for them. Rudy Giuliani, who I just love more than anything, know what you believe, he says. Every person in the world wants voice and dignity, and every person deserves them. I love Rudy so much. I remember when 9/11, Rudy was on the scene in, an hour? The President of the United States, what did it take? 2-3 days to show up? Again, with the New Orleans floods. I mean, my gosh, the mayor of New Orleans is on site, and George Bush, the floods Monday, and he lands there, Friday? I never understand that guy. Voice. People want the opportunity to speak their minds and have their ideas, opinions, and feelings heard, regardless of their nationality, gender, age, or culture. And I saw this on Dental Town a lot. I really understood for the first time in my life, understood the prejudices of bias and prejudice and heuristics and things that get in your way. I was on Dental Town, and there was this dentist, and I was really learning a lot from him, and his name was Samir Puri, and another one, Tarun Agarwal. And we were on the internet, so it's just typing. And after I'd been listening to this guy for like a year, or maybe a year and a half or two, and I just thought this guy was just a genius. Then I met him, and I find out that Tarun was at the time 29, and I was 43, and Samir was, the same thing. They're just babies. And if they would have come up to me and I would have seen them in person and realized that they were just young puppies, 3 or 4 years out of dental school, and they started telling me what they thought, I'd think, oh, yeah, right. You don't even know what you don't know. It'll take you 20 years to get where I'm at. And see, that's just a prejudice of age, where I'm thinking, I'm 43 and you're just a baby, you're 27, 28. How could you tell me something I don't know? And the internet really showed me how when you're not looking at someone's face, you don't get to see the prejudice of their age, or what country they're from, or anything like that, and you just get right to the point, and you start picking up their smile design and their cosmetics, and these guys were something else. People want dignity. People inherently and instinctively want to be respected for their work and their effort and their individuality, and that's another thing, By the time, Jan's been assisting me for 17 and a half years, I guarantee you she's got a dental degree. I guarantee you she knows more about dentistry than anybody who just walked out of dental school. So don't let these heuristics and biases change your mind. To be most effective, a person will be best off surrounded by strong people listening to them, being sensitive to their concerns and quirks of personality. Again, Jan, she'll come back and sometimes I'll be working and I'll say, what? And she goes, no, I need your full undivided attention and you're OCD on this. I'm going to come back. Or she'll come back and she'll say, quit typing, turn on the computer. My little kids are geniuses. Sometimes I'll be on Dental Town or whatever. They'll come and they'll hit the button on the screen monitor, which makes the monitor turn off. And I just think, God, Zach, you're 10 years old and you're so smart. You know, to get my undivided attention, you need to turn off that monitor. And we believe, Abraham Maslow again saying, we believe a great part of the success equation was the environment which allowed people to reach their potential, commit to a cause, and find great meaning in their work. Most people can change only within a narrow range, if at all. Many people can acknowledge criticism and advice, but relatively few internalize it and alter their behavior in a significant way. People really don't change. And picking people that will change is the whole game. If I have the right people in the bus, I know I'm going from Phoenix to Omaha. But I have the wrong people on the bus. I don't know what's going to happen, but I bet you anything the bus is going to break down. Did you, everyone, yourself, your employees, everyone needs to know where they stand. Did you think getting grades was mean? Grades have a way of making everything pretty clear. I mean, if you get a D in English and an A in math, you pretty much know that you're good in English and you're not good in math. I mean, it makes things clear. Some people graduate and go on to be astronauts or research scientists or college professors. Others become marketing managers, advertising executives, and still others become nurses, chefs, or professional surfers. Grades, in fact, guide us, telling us something about ourselves that we need to know. You know, if you get an F in math, I doubt it's because you're not very smart. I bet it has a lot to do with you probably just don't like math. And if you're getting an A in English and an F in math, and this is where our school system goes wrong. Again, if I'm a company and I make blue and red widgets, and no one's buying blue and everyone's buying red, what does free enterprise do? They say, well, let's not even make blue. Let's just focus on red. What does McDonald's do when they come out with some new sandwich and like the McLean? Remember the McLean? You know, it was about 10 years ago. They quit selling it. You know why? Because they sold 375 Big Macs for every McLean. And the person ordering the McLean didn't even understand what the McLean was all about with less calories, because you could hear them in the drive-thru going, I'd like a McLean, large order of fries and a malt. I mean, you know, what are you going to ask them? Do they want cigarettes with their McLean? So the bottom line is, but what does school do? School says you get an A in English and an F in math. Oh my God, you're going to retake the math and you're going to take remedial math and we're going to keep pounding math into your head. Where a lot of school systems, like in Europe, by the 6th grade they start sorting them. And by the 6th grade, if you just keep doing really bad in math, they say, well, let's not kind of have him go this way towards science and engineering. He's getting an A in English. Let's have him go this way into marketing and writing and graphic art or whatever. But you need to start sorting the herd, finding out what they're good at. A lot of what they're good at is simply what they're interested in. If they're not interested in them, and you make them go to school every day and keep taking geometry and algebra and calculus, and it just makes them feel bad and feel dumb. And these schools are making them feel bad and dumb simply because the kid is going to go on to be one of the greatest science fiction writers of all time, and school's just making them feel bad. So grades tell you something about yourself. And that's another thing I've told employees over the year. You know, I've told some employees I've let go over the years, you know what, I don't even know why you're in dentistry. You don't like dentistry? You don't like B2C, consumer, patient. You don't like the consumer crowd. Why don't you go into something that's something different? And I asked this one dental assistant, I let her go, I said, you know, if you knew you wouldn't fail, if you knew you wouldn't miss a car payment, if you could just do anything in the world you'd want to do, what would you want to do? She goes, you know, I've always wanted to work in a nursery. And I say, then why are you being a dental assistant? I mean, there's nurseries all over Phoenix. Make a change. I mean, you don't like this. You're doing something you don't like because you don't think you're going to make the money. And she says, well, I've looked at nurseries and they don't pay as well as healthcare. And I'll say, well, are you happy? I mean, you can't be happy because I'm letting you go. I mean, your performance is such that I have to let you go. You got to be true to yourself. If you're not happy, money's not everything. Work is the reward, not the money. The New York Yankees function perfectly well as a team with a highly transparent system of differentiation in place. Differentiation rewards those members of the team who deserve it. By the way, that annoys only the underperformers. To everyone else, they love it. Now remember, Differentiation is very easy in sports because sports is all about measurements. It's pretty easy to say, well, we pay Michael Jordan $3 million a year and you $3,000 a year because he makes 20 points a game and you've never made a point during a game. So sports has so many measurements, it's easy to differentiate the employees. Differentiation favors people who are generally energetic and extroverted, and it undervalues people who are shy and introverted, even if they are talented. This is a true bias. And once again, this is Jack Welch, one of the greatest managers of all time. Tom Peters always asks, does the work matter? The idea of adding passion and wow and magic to what we do is compelling to many of us. All of the great ideas in risk-taking are so important, but they don't appeal to many people. And once again, we'll go back to candor. Jack Welch states, I would call lack of candor the biggest dirty little secret in business today. People talk about the bureaucracy, layers, politics, false politeness. The lack of candor is everywhere. Candor gets more people in the conversation, and thus you get idea rich. Many more ideas get surfaced, discussed, pulled apart, and improved. Instead of everyone shutting down, now everyone opens up and learns. Any organization, any unit, any team, any dental office that brings more people and their minds into the conversation has an immediate competitive advantage. Candor generates speed. When ideas are in everyone's face, they can be debated rapidly, expanded, and enhanced and acted upon. That approach, surface, debate, improve, decide, isn't just an advantage, it's simply a necessity. Candor also cuts your costs, lowers your overhead. Just think of how it eliminates meaningless staff meetings when you're not doing production and reports that confirm what everybody else knows. Think of how candor replaces mind-numbing staff meetings with real conversations, whether they're about strategy, marketing, a new procedure, or someone's performance. Nancy Bauer, a professor of philosophy at Tufts University, argues that people don't speak their minds because it's simply easier not to. When you tell it like it is, you can easily create a mess, make someone anger, pain, confusion, sadness, resentment. So most people just kind of smile and go along with the deal, and that's not what you need. A classic philosopher, Immanuel Kant, who's a little weird, a little bizarre, but definitely genius and out there on the fringes of the edge, argues that not being candid is actually about your own self-interest. It makes your own life easier not to stand up and say, you know what, you're wrong. Immanuel Kant said that people are often strongly tempted not to be candid because they don't look at the big picture. They worry that when they speak their minds and the news isn't good, they stand a strong chance of alienating other people. But what they don't see is that lack of candor is the ultimate form of alienation. Kant said, when people avoid candor in order to curry favor with other people, they actually destroy trust. And in that way, they ultimately erode society. So back to the patient exit interview. When the only way to get better is to find out why a patient is leaving your practice. A patient exit interview does this with questions like, what did you like the most about our office? What did you like the least? What would you never change about our office? What would you change tomorrow? And your patient exit interview, you remember your other new patient, unless they're a 3-year-old and it's their first visit or they just immigrated into this country, usually your new patient, they've exited some other dental office. Even on this camera crew today, I've learned why one dentist left a friend of mine and why he went to another dental office. And this is always pertinent, always making me think. Price was an issue. The staff exit interview is even more important. The only way to get better is to find out why a staff member is leaving your practice. A staff member exit interview does this with questions like, what did you like the best about our office? What did you like the least about our office? Go through each staff. What do you think of these staff members? Now you can truly be candor. This is personal information, and they'll give me that because they have trust, and we'll sit there and we'll go through the team. And this is all the most pertinent information about your staff. And if you can't get it right with your wife and children, you're not going to get it right with your staff. And if you get it right with your family and your spouse and your staff, then you're going to get it right with your patients. And you know why people don't get it right with their staff? And why they don't get it right with their wife and why they don't get it right with their staff? Because many times when marriage comes to a head where it's going to end in divorce, one party, sometimes both parties, know what they have to do to rise to the occasion to be a better person. Maybe it's quitting drinking. Maybe it's quitting going out 3 nights a week. Maybe it's not ever helping doing chores at home. And you know what they do? They just sit there and say, yeah, you know what? I really need to be a better person. I really need to quit drinking. I really need to do more chores. I need to be more involved with the kids. I need to be a better person. And you know what? I don't want to be a better person. I'm just going to sit there and just be lazy and say the hell with the whole thing. You have to rise to the occasion to keep your staff. You have to rise to the occasion to keep your wife. And if you learn to rise to the occasion with your spouse, you learn to rise to the occasion with your staff. I've had several staff tell me that the reason they quit their office is because they just thought the dentistry was crap. And they told the dentist at the very end, and he didn't want to go to continue, and he didn't want to retake impressions. When the hygienist said, look, you did this crown, and there's an open margin, and they're packing food, and we need to redo it. And he comes in and says, oh, I think it's fine. And then the next patient comes in, there's a crown that looks better than that, but it's someone else's crown. He says, oh, we need to redo this one. And the hygienist's like, wait a minute, you redo work on patients that have better dentistry than the dentistry you're doing. So usually, you know, it's about becoming a better person. It's about focusing on you and your circle. You take care of yourself. You rise to the occasion, and then the spouse and the staff and the patients will all, you'll find out the success. All 3 ways are the same skills. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jan Sweeney. I've worked for this awesome man for 17.5 years. And when he says that you become a better person with the people that you work with, he is so right. I have become such a much better person since I've worked with Dr. Fran. The virtue I'm going to talk about is salubritas, wholesomeness, health, and cleanliness. If you want you and your team to have very high energy so they can perform great under stress and always achieve their goal, they will need glucose and oxygen to produce energy. At our office, in our lounge, we actually have all kinds of nuts. We have pecans, almonds, cashews, and another kind of nut. Whenever I start feeling my energy level is getting a little bit low, all I need to do is go to the back and just grab a handful, and my energy level is back up. I have high energy from 8 a.m. until I'm done working at the end of the day. For you to have high energy, that's what you need to produce your goals. At Today's Dental, we have a goal that is for $8,000 a day. A little story behind that, we had a patient just at the end of last month that was scheduled for a 2.5-hour appointment. She called 1 hour prior to her appointment to state that she was not going to be able to make it because she had car trouble and that she was going to have to cancel and that she was at the garage. Well, as I'm setting up the room for this patient, the front office had called back on the walkie-talkie and said that she had canceled. As I am walking up to the front, they were all together deciding what could we do to help this patient out to get her to come to her appointment. Our front office was talking about paying for her cab to come to and from the office, that we would pay for that. The other choice was to have our office manager go pick her up and our office supervisor to actually take her home. We all agreed that would be a great idea, so we actually had them call her, and she was so happy that we were offering that to her. She made her appointment, and as I said, our goal is $8,000 a day. Well, on that day, we actually produced $13,000. That is one reason why, with all this high energy, that your team can produce every day. So without further ado, I will introduce you to, oh great one, Dr. Howard Ferran.
You are too sweet, man. Too sweet. This is the girl that feeds my ego. She's my, I say, I got a wife at home, miss my wife at work, and we've been through a lot together, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
We both lost her dad. We both, everything. Yeah. But
I'm the lucky one, though, Doc.
And I always tell everyone, when people ask me when I'm going to retire, I always say 1 hour before Jan does. And if Jan retires, I'm not going to do the Muhammad Ali where you stay in your career way too long. The minute Jan leaves, if Jan says her body can't do it anymore and she can't see, then I know I need to retire.
As long as I have high energy and work with you, I'll be fine.
But Jan, you are the second greatest thing that ever happened to me. You and Judith and Lori, I mean, I'm a lucky man. But speaking of the lucky one, I'll come back over and over and over. Office after office after office. You got to take care of yourself, Doc. And ask yourself, you know, who do you think has more energy? You know, the guy on the right, the guy on the left? Who do you think's going to convince their patients to fight gum disease, save their teeth, come in every 3 to 6 months? Which one of these two is going to convince you to floss? I mean, take care of yourself. Which person would you rather have on your team? Someone that comes to work all pumped up, or someone that comes to work hungover and lazy? You are a physical machine. One of the bad things about religion is you fail to recognize that you are an animal human being first. I mean, you have a body. You can't abuse your brain and your muscle and your bones and then think that you run on some spiritual fairies. I mean, you have energy, and some people know how to harvest energy better than others. Now, let's review something basic that goes back from physiology and anatomy, biochemistry. Why does your doctor have you not eat after midnight when you come in and you're going to do a physical and they're going to draw blood? Because if you haven't eaten since midnight and you come in and they draw blood and your insulin level is over 120 milligrams per deciliter, what is that? That's diabetes. When you have more than 120 milligrams of glucose per deciliter, your pancreas secretes insulin, and insulin moves that sugar straight into fat. When you fall below 70, your body knows it's going to die. So it's trying to release glucose, and the fastest way to release glucose is not burning up fat. Fat is a long-term storage. Your body will first always burn muscle, and muscle will run through the liver, and the liver will turn into glycogen and release glucose. When you're over 120, think of the big Thanksgiving meal. After you go and eat Thanksgiving, just way overeat, and your glucose gets way over 120 milligrams per deciliter, how do you feel? Energetic, ready to go run, ready to go back to work, or do you feel ready to go lay down and sleep? What happens when your sugar goes below 70 milligrams per deciliter and your body thinks you're going to die? So what do you think your body thinks when it's going to die? What kind of mood do you think it'd put them in for the most survival? Sweet, happy, want to play kissy poo, or do you think it's mean and fight or flight and they're ready to kill someone? Your staff, when they skip breakfast, they come in and they skip breakfast. Lots of people like to drink stimulants like caffeine, because caffeine, when you drink it, it releases dopamine in your cells, which gives you kind of a buzz, makes you high. The problem with that is your brain was going to slowly secrete dopamine all day long. Now you use a stimulant such as caffeine, nicotine, caffeine, and chocolate, hopefully not methamphetamine or anything like that. But when you have caffeine, you dumping out all your dopamine early. Yeah, it gives you a big buzz. But then what's going to happen at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you come crashing down, and then you go back and you're drinking your coffee, but see, it's not working because there's no dopamine built up in your brain. It has to degas and go through a sleep cycle to build the dopamine neurotransmitters back up. So you're sitting there pounding your coffee and you're drinking espressos, you're loading up on it, it ain't working because you're out of dopamine for the day. You used up all your dopamine early in the morning. Your staff comes in, they eat dinner last night at 8 or 9 o'clock. They skip breakfast so they can have 20 more minutes of sleep, and plus they just want to drink a Diet Coke or coffee on the way to work. And they come in and they're in fight or flight mode and they don't even know it. And you know, this cat knows it needs glucose, and your staff come in, they're feisty in the morning. Have you heard staff say the most ironic thing like, come on, don't bother me, I haven't had my cup of coffee yet? Well, you haven't had your cup of coffee yet, and the coffee's going to make you more feisty. You didn't eat any breakfast. Does this face look like your receptionist or your hygienist? Does it look like your assistant? Or does it look like you, Doc? You got to take care of yourself. You got to wake up. You got to have breakfast. I always joke, there's my wife when she skips her breakfast. But what we do, Jan was saying, we have nuts. That's true. You know, basically humans, the apes and monkeys, basically humans need basically a shot of protein and a shot of vitamin C every 3 to 4 hours. It's so simple. That's the healthiest people. They don't wait 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours between meals when their glucose goes real low. They're irritable, they're moody, they're feisty, they have low energy. They always have their glucose between 70 or 80 and 120. Humans don't make their own vitamin C. When sun hits our skin, we make our own vitamin D. Tigers and cats and lions and cheetahs, they make their own vitamin C. Humans don't make their own vitamin C, so basically you need some fruit and some protein every 3 hours. That's basically it in a nutshell. So what we do is I got 12 people in my office. 4 receptionists, 4 hygienists, 4 assistants. I can't, if they skip dinner or breakfast and they come back there and they're foraging on something like bagels or breads or donuts, that's not what they need. That's not the energy they need. And I see my staff no differently than I would see professional athletes, or if I had racehorses. If you had racehorses and you had a big race today, would you let all your horses skip breakfast? Say you had they were all athletes and they're coming in and they're going to play Super Bowl. And would you let them all skip breakfast, or be sitting there before the Super Bowl and everybody's drinking some beer, having some Jack Daniels, or just getting pumped up on coffee? You take care of professional athletes like they are real physical bodies. You take care of horses and dog racing like these are real bodies. Your staff has a real body, and their attitude cannot replace their physical entity, body, flesh. And so I always have fruit and protein shakes. The only snack that really is a protein is the chocolate-covered M&M almonds. M&M with peanuts. A peanut is not a nut. It's actually a legume. And that's a whole nother lecture on why I don't care for legumes. But basically, some days we buy fruit platters. Some day we buy vegetable platters. Some days we just have a basket of fruit, buy some bananas, buy some oranges, whatever. But it's the same thing in public schools. I think it's so sad that the 4 variables for the kids doing the highest on the ACT and the SAT scores are number of parents at home, number of hours they do homework, number of hours they read, and a negative correlator, number of hours they watch TV. So in our house, we got both parents. There's no television on a school night. They have to read an hour each night, and they have to do all their homework, get it signed off by us. So then our kids will appear, people say, they're real smart. They're not real smart. They're well managed. You ever notice you go into some houses and the dogs eat the furniture and poop on the carpet and pee on the walls? In other houses, their dogs are all trained, only go to the bathroom in one spot, have doggy doors. And I've always been amazed how some people can raise their dogs better than their baby humans. But I think it's a tragedy that in public schools, these kids come in, 80% of some minority kids, 80% of them have only one parent at home. They didn't eat breakfast. Mom gave them some lunch money. They stopped at the 7-Eleven, Circle K, and bought a big old Dr. Pepper. They're all hopped up on caffeine, and they're competing and learning next to some kid who woke up and had 2 eggs and an orange. And there's just no competition there. Look at the number of patents from some countries that are malnutrition. They don't have any patents per million. And then what your staff does when they sit there and they skip breakfast, they start getting ferociously hungry. So then they go to lunch and they massively overeat. And then all of this glucose over 120 will sit there, all moved into fat. And then they come back after lunch, they have this big old crash, and they want to go take a nap, and they're yawning. And then they go home and overeat at dinner. And then they only eat 2 meals a day. It might only be 1,500 calories, but they're moving, maybe 500 of those calories per day into fat. They're always fighting fat. And then when you study the professional athletes, they might eat 2,000 or 3,000 calories a day, but they're always eating little meals every 3 hours. They're always eating something. And it's amazing talking to nutritionists from local professional sporting place up the street. We got lots of professional athletes in Phoenix, and some of those people will even get a watch that every 3 hours will beep, and every 3 hours they either drink a protein shake or they eat what they call a fist-sized portion of proteins. Could be a hand of nuts, could be a piece of meat, and some vitamin C. So every 3 hours they'll have like a banana, a fist size of protein, and they're 9% body fat, and they're just beautiful bodies because they know the importance of eating light and eating often. You only eat enough food to last you 3 hours. You eat 3 snacks per day at 100 to 150 calories. You also got to watch the glycemic index. When you eat proteins, the protein slowly releases glucose for 2 to 3 hours. So you don't get a big glycemic rush where all that sugar gets moved straight to fat. You sit there and you get a slow release of sugar. You don't get the big hyperinsulinemia. And also fruits, maybe release over an hour. But see, where society went wrong is 30,000 years to 1,000,000 years ago, Anthropologists say that from 30,000 years ago to 1,200,000 years ago, the average human hominoid averaged about 71 years of life. And then they decided to quit being nomads, where they just fall around and hunt and pick berries and fruit, where they're just eating meat and protein and vitamin C, and they decided to sit place and set up agriculture. And they did it all over the world about the same time 30,000 years ago, whether it was Peking man, Javaman, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon. About 30,000 years ago, simultaneously in 10 different spots around the world, they sat down, used their brain, and started eating seeds. They saw these animals eating seeds, and they started collecting these seeds and eating them, and instantly their life expectancy around the world went from about 70 years life expectancy on average down to 40. And then from 30,000 years ago to 1900, it drifted from 40 down to almost 35, 34, around that area. And it's from eating just cereal seeds, where if you look at the digestive systems of animals that eat seeds, they're birds and land grazers. They have completely different digestive systems. And when you look at bagels and breads and cakes and candies and all these cereal grain, wheat, oats, corn, rice, barley. Look at the glycemic index. You eat it, it just rapidly releases into glucose. It goes way over the 120, and the body throws it all into fat, and 30 minutes later, your glucose drops down again, and what happens? You're hungry. And the snack manufacturers know that. That's why all snacks are made of cereal, grains, and salt, because salt makes you keep eating, and because in the brain we know that the desire of thirst and hunger are very confusing signals to the brain. So if I put salt in your mouth, it makes you thirsty, and you'll confuse that with being hungry. And then if I make like shredded wheat, shredded wheat is one of the highest glycemic index foods, breakfast cereals, and then they put the powdered frosting on one side. It's frosted shredded wheats. You eat that, the glucose goes off the charts, it all goes straight to fat, and you think it's healthy and nutritious because you believe the marketing department, and 30 minutes after you eat it, you're back in the kitchen grazing around looking for a brownie or a piece of toast or a bagel. You're always eating. Whereas if you would have ate protein, you'd have had a slow release. Look at these lions. They'll bring down an animal and they'll eat 30 to 40 pounds of meat, and then they're going to sleep for 3 days, and that meat will just slowly digest, slowly let out glucose. They'll never go above 120, and 3 days later, finally, that sugar's down, and they'll wake up and they'll get all mad and they'll go kill another beast and they'll eat it again. Basically they eat, then sleep for 3 days, eat again, sleep for 3 days. That's protein, okay? So be healthy. Start with your staff. We always say the customer doesn't come first, the staff comes first. Make sure that the right snacks are available. In our office, we do not allow donuts. You can't go to Krispy Kremes every day. I don't want all my staff to have a big glucose rush, then 30 minutes later be hungry. I want them eating protein and vitamin C. I want them snacking on grapes, bananas, strawberries, nuts, almonds, shrimp. Sometimes we just bring in a bird and tear apart a bird. They have those roasted chickens at Safeway. And practice health. Do you monitor your blood pressure daily? Do you monitor your staff? Smart Practice sells blood pressure monitors for $181. Taking a patient's blood pressure at every appointment is a great value-added service. Bundle into your current fee. It is medical necessary before you use a vasoconstrictor, epinephrine-containing anesthetic, and patients over 40 love it. But what's really good for myself and your staff is to realize that, the number one cause of an increase in blood pressure is eating over a gram a day of sodium. And when you study high blood pressure at the cellular level, every cell membrane has a sodium-potassium pump, and it takes 4 potassium ions into a cell to pump out 1 sodium ion. Well, I love it because I can take my blood pressure every day, and they say anything under 140, under 90 is good. Well, that's crazy because you still have strokes, aneurysms. You don't get free of cerebral vascular accidents, strokes, atherosclerosis until you get your blood pressure under 110/70. And if I sit there and eat a hot dog or beef jerky and You know, a can of Campbell's soup has 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and you can only have 1,000 a day. And if I get back up to 4 grams of sodium a day, my blood pressure will be 135, 138 over 88 to 90. I mean, it'll be right at the range, 140 over 90. And then when I go off sodium, I get it back down to under 1 gram a day. Within 2 or 3 days, my blood pressure will be back down to, 110 over 68. And by having that daily biofeedback, and I have one of the assistants, Colleen, or a hygienist or someone, I'll just say, they'll come back and ask them, I'll say, will you take my blood pressure real quick? But that constant daily feedback, Judith, what's the name of that book that explained blood pressure so great? It's by Dr. Moore, The K Factor. The K Factor, the high blood pressure solution, where Mayo Clinic twice has taken 5,000 people on high blood pressure medications, and they were able to get 92%, only all but 8 out of 100, within 14 days, could get their blood pressure down under 140 over 90 simply by getting down to 1 gram of sodium or less with 4 grams of potassium or more. And the only place you're going to find potassium is in plants. So if it's not green, it doesn't have potassium. The most potassium is in a banana, 400 milligrams of I'll take potassium pills. I take 2 or 3 grams of just potassium supplements because I just can't eat that many bananas and oranges and all that kind of stuff. But boy, I'll tell you, this biofeedback, and it creates a constancy of promoting health. Also, every time someone comes in and they have high blood pressure and they're on blood pressure medication, just, you got to remind them that when you take a high blood pressure pill, you lower your blood pressure. But ask the CDC in Atlanta, there is no change in morbidity and mortality. You'll get an A on your blood pressure, and you'll still have the same degree of strokes and aneurysms. The only bringing down the blood pressure by diet is the only thing that increases morbidity and mortality, decreases morbidity and mortality. In fact, the difference between bringing your blood pressure down with diet and exercise versus with pills is about 3 years and 8 months of longevity. So just because you're taking a pill and you're getting a good score on your high blood pressure, don't believe your own press clippings. And when people are coming in and you're giving them books to read, I can't tell you, Jan's got a whole stack of papers already copied off with the name of like the K Factor, the high blood pressure solution by Michael Moore, MD, PhD, if they got high blood pressure, or the Paleolithic diet. If they're sitting there talking about fighting diet and they've tried every diet, doesn't work, and we say, well, Dr. Fran's a really big fan of Dr. Cordain's research from the University of Colorado, and he's a big believer in this Paleolithic diet. Here's the name of the book. Go buy it. You can get them used on Amazon for $5. But it creates a lot more value added. They're coming into the dentist, and they're leaving with nutritional information. They might be leaving with a referral they have high blood pressure. So be more than an oral mechanic. You're not a molar mechanic. You're a physician of the mouth, and that mouth is attached to a hell of a lot of human, and try to understand it in its entirety. Thank you.
Hi, my name's John Robinson, and you can probably already see that I'm the younger, smarter, more hair, nicer, sexier looking version of Dr. Ferran. I've been working with Dr. Ferran since about 1999 at the beginnings of Dental Town. My cohort in crime, Ken Scott, and I both started on the Dental Town project at the beginning, and we both work in the IT group, and we run the website in the community. And I'm here today to actually tell you a little bit about that and introduce the next virtue for our series. We have a lot of things going on with Dental Town. The website we have a lot of new things coming out, and the next 5 years is going to be just as good as the last 5 have been, and I hope everybody's excited about it, because we all are over here. Without further ado, I'm going to talk about the next virtue, which is virtus, or courage, especially of leaders within society, government, and healthcare. Now, a question for all you dentists out there: why would your daughter get orthodontics and bleaching when your patient's daughters get their teeth filed down with veneers? Are you going to treat somebody else's daughter differently than you would your own? And here to talk about this next virtue, courage, is Dr. Ferran himself.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Man, we've been through a lot, back from a guy who programmed this since 1999, and I remember back in 1999, I don't think hardly any dentist knew what the internet was, and And now 2005, pretty much email's ubiquitous, and man, we've seen a lot of changes, haven't we?
And we sure have, and it's just going to get greater from now on in.
And I know, I learned a lot from John because I know that being a dentist, we learned 5,000 words of Latin and Greek, and I know that whenever we talk to patients, they have no idea what we're talking about. And every time John talks to me, I always remember my conversation with John when I'm talking to my patients, because whenever John's talking to me, I have no idea what he's saying. And he's trying really hard to explain it all, and I'm thinking, every time he's talking, I'm just thinking, oh, I hope my patients don't feel like I'm feeling right now. And it always makes me realize to speak more English to my patients every time I talk with John. But John, someday I'll understand what you're saying.
Well, thanks, Dr. Fred.
Right now, it's all on blind faith and love.
Thank you.
But the virtue courage, virtus, courage. It's a courage to go on, to learn. I mean, you do a filling, you do a crown, you do an x-ray, you do a cleaning, and you've never done orthodontics, and you're just afraid of it. Well, what happens when you don't learn orthodontics? I mean, orthodontists are always quick to say, well, if you want to do ortho, become an orthodontist. Yeah, that's their own self-interest. They want all the ortho. I understand that, and that's fine. That's even virtuous. But 24,000 towns in the United States, 12,000 of them don't have any specialists, any of the 9 specialists recognized by the ADA. We also have a problem where if you don't learn how to do ortho, you often get too veneer happy. And mom's coming in and she trusts you. Mom makes 89% of all healthcare appointments. I believe it was Regina Hertzlinger taking the year 1999. The United States made 764 million healthcare appointments that year. 89 out of 100 were by women. There are strong behavioral differences between men and women in the marketplace. If you go into Barnes & Noble and buy a book on sports, military, or business, you're a man. You go into Barnes & Noble and buy a book on healthcare, education, child rearing, self-help, motivation, or a love story, you're a woman. Did you know 98 out of 100 love story books are bought by women? So we're very different. And women highly value education, healthcare, child rearing, motivation, love stories, and they're bringing their daughter into you, and their teeth are crooked, and she's 21 years old, and you're filing down doing veneers, and you'd never do that on your own daughter. You know, if you filed down upper 10 teeth, 1.5 millimeters of enamel off, and did 10 upper veneers when she was 20, by the time she was 40, they'd all have to be replaced. 1 or 2 of the teeth would have died needing a root canal. By the time she was 60, I bet the 2 teeth that need a root canal probably snapped off, now need a post buildup and another crown, or broke off and now needs a bridge or an implant. It's a mess. You condemn the tooth to retreatment. When we take 100-year-old women and they average 7 teeth left, the women that had teeth had 7 teeth left, the number one variable of those 7 teeth that made it was simply because the dentist never touched it. So we've learned from minimally invasive dentistry not to touch a tooth. When a little kid comes in like this, you know how fun and exciting it is to take a little kid from this to that? I mean, look at that. This to that. I find that incredibly rewarding, incredibly fun. No shots, no blood, no drilling, no sutures, no infection. This is just fun and artistic, and glue and rubber band, retainers. I'm just amazed how 80% of the dentists won't do a single ortho case, but then they'll jump all over this. And this was the last veneer case I did, and now and on women under 30. It's kind of like tattoos, you know, girls get them when they're 17, 18, 19, usually freshman year of college, they had too many margaritas, and they get a big old tattoo, and it usually takes them to about 40 to 50 or 60 to realize, now that tattoo don't look too good, and they come in and they say, you need braces and bleaching. Nah, I don't want that, I want the quick fix, give me a quick veneers. And I did these veneers, and okay, it looks good, but you know, I was sick and nauseous because that girl was 21 and I was 40. And my gosh, I actually wasn't 40. I think I was about 35. I don't think I've done this for 10 years. And I should have just put my foot down. I shouldn't be letting a 21-year-old little girl in college who wants a quick fix on her teeth to do a bad decision. You know, and if you can't go through a year, 12 months of braces, then you really must not want it that bad. And also, this came in from a good friend of mine down the street, and he'd replaced his crown 3 times. The patient was all upset. I mean, this is what happens when you don't do ortho. That patient came in very upset. You know, I had the crown off and I had a bracket on there and I had that tooth pulled down in 60 days. And you know, if I'd have sent that to an orthodontist, they'd have done full records and a full ortho and probably would have told her she needed ortho. They would have made a mountain out of a molehill. I think I charged $900 extra for the brace. I mean, it's just not a big deal. Minor tooth movement. It's so fun when kids walk in with this and you know, they leave your office 2 years later and they look like that. I mean, that's just fun. No blood, very conservative. Here's another little kid, comes in like this, looks goofy. He leaves like that 2 years later. Why does this not appeal to you? I mean, look at this. They come in all kind of confusing and they're self-conscious. They don't really like their smile. They leave like that. I mean, how is that not fun? Look at these. That to this. I mean, if that's not rewarding, and who can teach you to do this all day long? Brock Rondeau. You notice there's not very many board-certified orthodontists in the United States that will teach ortho to general dentists because they'll just get blackballed in their own society. Brock Rondeau's Canadian, teaches straight wire orthodontics and functional appliances. You can call Brock Rondeau at 877-372-7625. That's 877-372-7625. Brock is so fantastic. Other ones are Richard Litt, who's a board-certified orthodontist. He ran the program at University of California, San Francisco. Then he went and ran the orthodontic program up at University of Detroit, Michigan. Another fine fellow, bald man with an earring. Great guy. Robert Garrity. I mean, I could listen to that guy talk for the rest of my life. There's never a boring moment. You can call Richard Litt at 810-646-5220. 810-646-5220, or Bob Garrity, 918-652-4404, 918-652-4404. But ortho is just fun. Get into it. I don't see how you can't have fun doing orthodontics. Now, we mail our Dental Town magazine to over 140,000 dentists in the USA, Canada, and 38 other countries, and our circulation specialty breaks out as the following. And I'm telling you this because supply equals demand. There's 4,000 endodontists, 5,000 oral surgeons, 4,000 periodontists, 2,000 prosthodontists, 3,000 pediatric dentists, but there's 10,663 orthodontists. There are 10,000 orthodontists. Basically, endodontists plus oral surgeons is only 9,000, orthodontists is 10. If you added up periodontists 4,000, prosthodontists 2,000, pediatric dentists 3,000, add those all up together, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you still don't have as many orthodontists. So there's more orthodontists than endodontists and oral surgeons combined. There's more orthodontists than periodontists, prosthodontists, and pediatric dentists, the 3 Ps combined. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that there's a huge, huge demand for orthodontics. When you're a suburbanite and you have your, your token 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl, orthodontics is almost a right. I mean, there's nobody in the suburbs driving an SUV that's going to look at their little precious daughter, Megan, with a bunch of teeth that looks like she can eat corn on the cob through a chain link fence, and dad's not going to say, I got to do it. I got to pay the money. I got to find $5,000. I got to get braces on Megan. They're not going to walk her down the aisle to get married with funny looking teeth. It's just a rite of passage. Now, when I was a little kid, growing up in Catholic Kansas, you know, these big Catholic families, 7 kids, only the ugliest child got ortho, and yes, I got braces. And but the bottom line is, the number of specialists should directly correlate to the real demand of each dental service. This means orthodontics would have the highest demand, while anesthesiologists, oral maxillofacial radiologists, oral pathologists, and TMD specialists would have the lowest demand. And what is just so bizarre is how many dentists do I know that'll run down to the Pankey Institute for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've gone down there for 5 weeks, and I'll go down for the final 6 just because it's there. And I've learned a lot about big cases. I've learned a lot of great skills at the Pankey Institute, but I wouldn't say they're real common skills that I use. Because, I mean, come on, how many full mouth rehabs do you do compared to a patient with just 1 broken tooth needs a crown, or 2 cavities needs an MO and a DO? I mean, how often are you really filing, doing a whole mouth, mount on articulator? These Pankey Institute skills are fantastic, but I wouldn't say that I use them daily. I mean, I go weeks without using those skills. But then you won't learn a simple orthodontics, and there's 10,663 orthodontists on our mailing list. Orthodontic services are already sold to the consumer, so you don't have to have excellent case presentation skills. You know, it takes some guy with gum disease, a bad bite, who needs a $20,000, $30,000 rehab. That's a heck of a sales pitch to get someone to part with $20,000, $30,000 when they can go eat a Burger King bacon cheeseburger tonight with onion rings and not have any problems. But when mom brings in her 12-year-old daughter Megan and her teeth look goofy, mom's already decided she needs ortho. There's not even a sales pitch. They just come in, they say, well, what do you think about her bite? And I just look at them and say, well, she needs braces. And she goes, yeah, I thought so. When can you start? And you just say, well, just go take records and let's get after it. You don't have to bring them back for an hour consultation. Well, the average hygienist does basically $100 an hour average production, with about $35 to $40 in labor cost when you consider FICA matching, insurance, all these things. The average orthodontic appointment generates $200 an hour with an average production cost of about $20 in labor cost. So orthodontics is without a doubt the most lucrative area in dentistry, since the expanded duty dental assistants do almost all the work. You get in a heck of a lot less trouble legally, because you're not doing shots and drilling, infections and surgeries and paresthesias and anesthesias and all these different complications you can get with other areas of dentistry. There are 5 orthodontists for every prosthodontist. There are 3.5 orthodontists for every periodontist. There's 2.7 orthodontists for every endodontist, 2.6 orthodontists for every periodontist, and there's 2 orthodontists for every oral surgeon. It's just huge demand. Run to Brock Rondeau. I still think the top orthodontic instructor for GPs, I still think, is Brock Rondeau. And how I measure this myself is, for every 100 students they run through their program, how many of them actually band up a case and go? And Brock Rondeau is in the high 90s. Other fantastic ones that are just smack right close to him. Jay Gerber, another interesting one. Derek Mahoney from Australia. He's just utterly fantastic. We have Robert Garrity, he likes to go by Bob. He's so fantastic. Go to his website, orthodontics.com. Can you imagine being smart enough to get orthodontics.com? This guy was ahead of his time. Jim Song out there in California, he's a new hot star in the orthodontic community. These guys are passionate. They love ortho. They can explain it to anyone. Richard Litt with his FORCE, the Faculty for Orthodontic Research Continuing Education. He's just up in Birmingham, Michigan. Fantastic. Email him at force2100@aol.com. Harry Green, right here locally up the street from me here in Phoenix, Arizona, up in Cave Creek, with Tip Edge. Go to tipedge.com. He's got a whole different way of doing it, and he loves it. He talked to you for 10 hours on this. But your staff does the 80-20 rule on this stuff. They do 80% of all the work. And the top orthodontic instructor for staff is without a doubt June Williamson. She runs the Ortho or Rama seminars. It's orthoramaseminars.com, and that's ORTHORAMA seminars.com. And your staff is so vital in orthodontics. I mean, go into an orthodontist office, the staff are doing pretty much everything. And June Williamson, she's my age, she's fantastic. She's been teaching orthodontic assistants for 20 years. The average orthodontic practice is 2/3 children and 1/3 adults. The open bay ortho concept is a very high psychological barrier for adults. If you were a 45-year-old woman or man, would you want to be placed between 2 chairs with a 6-year-old on one side and an 8-year-old on the other side when their mom's there holding their hand, and you're in this middle of an open bay and you're in a 3-piece suit and got a briefcase, a cell phone, and a BlackBerry? Please get the adults a private room. After 10 years, the average orthodontist actually obtained 60 to 80% of their referrals from their own patients. So orthodontics is so heavily pre-sold. A dentist has to tell someone, you really need to have a root canal. That's going to need an endodontist. They don't even know what an endodontist means. Or, you got an 8mm pocket. You really have to go to a periodontist. They don't even know what a periodontist is. Heck, a prosthodontist. And that even sounds weird. Where does prosthodontist and prostitute? Prosto, artificial. Dontist, tooth, artificial tooth. Prostitute, artificial tooth, love, artificial love. But the bottom line is, everybody knows what an orthodontist is. Everybody knows their child needs orthodontics. And so the patients just pick up the phone book, call the orthodontist direct. They don't even need your referrals. Money owed on orthodontics is not accounts receivable. It's a work in process. I think one of the bizarrest, craziest, sickest things I see in dentistry is the orthodontists say, well, okay, this case is $5,000. I'll need $1,000 down, and I'll finance the $4,000 over 24 months for 9% interest. What? I mean, you didn't give them a $4,000 motorcycle where you had to build the whole motorcycle and hand it to them. The work, the cost, the overhead is when they come in each month for 24 months. And, you know, where you got to pay staff, rent, mortgage, equipment, supplies, lab, electricity, insurance, malpractice. So you don't incur cost until they come in for 30 minutes every month for 24 months. So why are you having to finance something that hasn't even taken place? In fact, if you want to be weird around this, if your orthodontist is asking for a huge economic barrier to entry, saying I need $1,000 down and then I'll finance the rest, you should advertise interest-free financing, free financing on anyone. And this is what Orthodontic Standards of America did. They just said, well, we'll finance anyone. It's $99 down, $99 a month till we're done. And the first $99 a month, they take the Pano and the SAF, the next $99 study models, next $99 they put on the back molar bands, and the next $99 they back it up to lower. They just keep spacing out $99 a month, and 24 to 36 months later at $99 a month, you're all done with your braces. And the moms and dads loved it because everyone can afford $99 a month. Not many people can come up with $1,000 down, then get approved for financing on a third party for a big old chunk of change, $4,000. And once again, financing orthodontics is financially insane because you can't be owed for something that's a work in progress. You didn't hand them something. It's a service. You didn't hand them a physical widget. You're selling a service. So the cost is incurred as it comes. So get into orthodontics and you'll be so glad you did it. Thank you.